Hey guys, today we're going to start talking about two-step equations. So there are just two things that I want to go over first before we start doing two-step equations. One are inverse operations. So again, and we talked about this earlier this week, we've been talking about with one-step equations. When you are adding two things and you want to cancel out that adding, you must use subtraction, because they are opposites of one another. Same thing if you're doing subtraction and you want to get rid of it, you just go ahead and add it. If you are multiplying and you want to cancel that out, you must use division. If you are dividing two things and you want to cancel it out, you must multiply. So again, we're just looking for the opposite operation. Speaking of operations, this is the review from earlier this year, from last year. The order of operations. You might remember PEMDAS. So we have parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and adding and subtracting. So this might be a little helpful for when we start doing these see-do tables. Speaking of see-do tables, this is what they look like. So if we look at the left column, we have our C column. This is the kind of stuff that is going on with your variable. And we'll talk about that as we work on the first problem together. And then for the do, we're really going to be looking at the inverse of what's going on in our C. As we fill it out, you're going to notice that we go down when filling out our C column, and then we go up as we perform our do column. So let's try it out together in this first equation here. I have 4x minus 1 is equal to 15. So I'm going to look at x and say, okay, directly, what am I doing to my x variable? So looking at order of operations, I can see that the first thing I'm doing is I am multiplying by 4. You can see I have 4x, I'm multiplying it by 4. Okay, after I multiply it by 4, what's going on? Or after that, I am subtracting 1. Subtracting 1. So as I filled it out, I went down like this. So in order to do the do column, I have to go up like this. And we're really looking for the inverse of what's ever going on in the previous column. So in the C column here, I see that I'm subtracting 1. Well, the inverse of subtraction is addition. So I would put add 1. For multiplying by 4, what's the inverse of multiplication? Oh, it's division. So I'm going to divide by 4. Let's look at the next one together too. So we'll leave that one alone. We're going to come back to it and use the do column to solve. But let's just fill out the see and do for this next equation. I have negative 5x plus 3 is equal to negative 22. So my variable is right here. The first thing I can see that's going on with the x is I'm multiplying it by negative 5. They're the closest ones with each other. So I'm multiplying by negative 5. After we multiply that x by negative 5, I can see that I'm adding 3. Adding 3. So again, when we did the C, we went down like this. So in order to do the do column, we have to go up this way. And again, we're looking for the inverse operations of the previous column. So originally I was adding 3. If I want to talk about the inverse, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3. In the previous column, I was multiplying by negative 5. Well, the opposite of multiplying would be to divide by negative 5. So what these tables do is they actually show us what steps we should take to solve for x in our equation. So I said that these were two-step equations here. So in order to solve it, we have our step 1 and our step 2. So step 1 says I need to add 1. Just like previous equations, like for one step, I have to do it to both sides. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides of my equation. Now when I add 1, that's just going to cancel out my minus 1 up there, because again, they're inverses of one another. They're canceling each other out, leaving me with just 4x. Then on the right side, I have 15 plus 1, or 16. Okay, now that I did step 1, I have to go to step 2, which says to divide by 4. So I'll go ahead and divide both sides by 4. On the left side here, because I did 4 times x, that divide by 4 just cancels that out, now leaving me with x. I'm left over with 16 divided by 4, which is 4. X is all by itself. I have that my answer is x equals 4. Let's use the see-do table for this one. So I'm going to draw my line down here. Again, I have 1 step and 2 step here. So my first step says I need to subtract both sides by 3. So I'll do minus 3 here. And again, I have to do it to both sides of the equation. I want to make sure that they both stay equal. On the left side, when I subtract by 3, all that's doing is just canceling out the plus 3 up there. Because again, they're opposites. They're inverse operations of one another. And that just leaves me now with my negative 5x. On the right side, I have negative 22 minus 3. If you want, you're allowed to do LCO here. So that's really negative 22 plus negative 3, or negative 25. Okay, so I did step 1. Now I have step 2, which says I need to divide both sides by negative 5. So I'll divide both sides by negative 5. On the left side, when I divide by negative 5, again, that's just canceling out the negative 5 up top, leaving me with x equals negative 25 divided by negative 5 is positive 5. So my answer is x equals positive 5. Below, I have 2 equations here. I don't want you guys to solve these. All I want you to do is to create a see-do table. So I want you guys to try to pause the video right now and just fill out the see-do table on your own. And then when you're done, unpause it and we'll go over the answers. Okay, so for this first one, again, here's my x. What is directly going on with x? Oh, well, I'm multiplying it by 10. After I multiply it by 10, I'm adding 3. I have plus 3 there. So in order to do the do side, I do have to look at their inverse operations. And again, I just want to make sure I have an error here so I know that that's the way I'm going. So when I add 3, the inverse of addition is subtraction. So I will subtract 3. I have that I'm multiplying by 10. The inverse of multiplication is division. So I will divide by 10. For this next one here, again, here's my x. What's directly going on? Well, I have that negative 2 out in front. I am multiplying by negative 2. After I multiply it by 2, I have this plus 4, so I'm adding 4. For my do side, I have to be looking at the inverse operation of what's going on in the C column. So when I'm adding 4, the inverse of addition is subtraction. I will subtract 4. I'm multiplying by -2, which the inverse would be to divide by -2. On Schoology, I have a small 3-question assignment. All I want you to do is to fill out the C-do table. Or I'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow and work more on two-step equations next week.